Hello, this is Oliver Blair from Massey University, and today I'm going to give you an overview of Sketchup 2014. So first of all, I'll just open up Sketchup 2014, and I'm just using the Make version. There is, with the Make version, it comes with like 8 hours of the Pro evaluation time, so you can have all the Pro features. From what I understand, Pro features aren't that big a deal. You can import DWGs and export DWGs, I think, and that's about it, I think. So the Make version is pretty decent. What you want to do is pick your template. So what I usually use is architectural design millimeters, because I'm usually working at that sort of scale, but sometimes I use meters or whatever. Feet and inches I don't really understand, so I won't use that. Millimeters. Alright, start using SketchUp. Cool, so the first thing that you end up with is this character. To figure out some details about it, you can right click and go Entity Info. So up comes a little window here like this. So you can see her name's Sophie. So the first thing I usually do is I usually delete that, just because then I don't have to work at any sort of specific scale, and I can sort of be a bit more abstract, mess around a bit more. So the first thing I did just then was draw a rectangle. So up here you can see there's all these tools up on the toolbar. If you hover over them, they'll say what they are and give a sort of hint at what they do. There are these arrows as well with other tools there, and so this is the sort of default basic toolbar. There's also a whole bunch of other tools up here. And to draw, camera, view, there's all this other stuff up here on the menu bar. And even some plugins I've imported as well. So, to draw a rectangle, you can click on this button, or you can also go Draw, Shapes, Rectangle. See how it says Rectangle and then there's an R next to it? So these are all the shortcut keys. These are really helpful because it lets me use both my hands when you're designing, rather than just clicking around everywhere using your right hand or left hand if you're left-handed, getting RSI, things like that. You can just press R on the keyboard and then it'll come up with the rectangle tool, or spacebar is the select tool, or M to move, or C for a circle, Q to rotate. So there's all these shortcut keys you can figure out on the keyboard that'll really speed up your process. So R for rectangle, cool. So you can draw like some rectangles around, and C for circle, and I'll draw another circle in there. So see how I'm sort of drawing, and it's always sort of blue. See how it's sort of blue here, but if I go up a wee bit, it turns to green, or if I go over here it's red. And what is that about? What does that mean? So if I zoom out a wee bit, just with the scroll wheel, you can see there's this green line, red line and blue line. If I orbit around, there's this button up here, orbit, or you can press O, or I highly recommend that you get a mouse so you can use your middle click, your scroll wheel button. So I'm in the select tool right now, so if I press the middle scroll wheel, it's the orbit tool, and I can sort of move my mouse around while I'm holding that button down. I can orbit around the model. So you can sort of see that there are these red, green, blue lines. They are the model axes, or the axis points. So what that means is, like, this here's, let's just say for example, red's X, green's Y, and blue is Z. So it's sort of like across and then up and down on the blue axis. So what does that mean now if I'm drawing a circle and it's blue? So if I draw it and it's blue, it's going to draw it on the ground like that. But if I sort of change my point of view and it's green, now that sort of circle's going sideways. And if it's red over here, then see? So it's sort of really, SketchUp's a bit weird because it's different from other CAD programs in the way that your camera and where you're looking at actually defines how you draw stuff. So for example, if I'm looking straight up and down, drawing squares, they'll always be on the ground. They'll always be sort of horizontal planes. Yeah, they'll never be like walls. They'll always be sort of like floors, like across like that. But if I change my view to be sideways like this, so I'm just middle clicking to like orbit around to change my view, then whenever I draw a rectangle, it's always going to be like a wall. Yeah. And so if I change my point of view to somewhere in between, looking straight up and down to straight across, somewhere in between, sort of like at an angle like this, then sometimes it'll be at the floor, and sometimes I think if I'm at the right angle, it'll no, it's not going to let me. I need to be at more of an angle like that. Yeah, so sometimes on the ground, and sometimes if I go up high enough, it's drawing walls. So it's a bit confusing, a bit tricky to get used to, like the first time you try it out. But it's really the way that you're looking at your model, the sort of orientation you're facing. So if I'm straight up and down, I'm going to draw ground planes. Straight across, I'm going to draw walls. So that brings me to the next point. So the mouse really matters as well. So for example, in most traditional CAD programs, when you zoom in and out, you're zooming straight in to the center point of the camera, no matter where your mouse is. So if I scroll in Revit or ArchiCAD or Vectorworks or anything like that, it'll zoom straight in. But in Sketchup, it really matters where your mouse is pointing. So if my mouse is way over here, and I zoom in, so it's zooming into that point, right in that top corner, and I can zoom out the same way. Yeah? But if I go back to that same viewpoint, change my mouse to over here, now when I scroll in, it's going to zoom over that way. So it's sort of the direction you zoom depends on where your mouse is. And also the speed at which you zoom. So see how if I sort of change my view, this little square over here is a lot further away than this one. So if I had my mouse hovered over that far away square, I zoom in, it's going to zoom in and out that quick. Yeah, but if I have my mouse on this point, it's only going to zoom in and out that quick. So I'm not flying past this square anymore. So the speed actually really matters depending on where your mouse is as well. How far away that object that you're hovering over is from the camera. So this is really helpful if you want to get around the model really quick. So instead of zooming out from something that's really close to you like this, you can just hover over something that's far away and then zoom out straight away. You can see the whole model. So it's sort of like, you can sort of like swing on it like monkey bars or something like that, rather than sort of zooming in and out real slow. So once you sort of understand those basic concepts, that you can orbit around anything, and you can zoom in and out really quickly if you want, and really slowly if you want to, and do detailed things as well, then SketchUp's a really powerful tool. You can sort of mock things up really quickly. What's another tool? Another basic tool is the push-pull tool, this one here. So you can also go Tools, Push-Pull, it's P. So I can just be drawing a rectangle, press P, and then you can push and pull it up. So push-pull sort of makes any face and sort of extrudes it out. So I've drawn these rectangles here before with the rectangle tool, and now I can sort of extrude them out. So see how it's just extruding that face? Yeah? So it's a pretty nice wee tool. You can sort of make things more 3D. Oh, it doesn't have a back to it, that one. I think that's because I pulled it out that way. Nope. Oh, it's probably because I had that funny shape in it. Cool, so that's alright. You can sort of resize things. I can make it really big and then really thin, and then sort of shrink it down so it's a little column kind of thing like that. Flatten it out so it's a blobby thing. Or also when you're pushing and pulling, you can reference other points. So see I'm pulling this out, but I want to line up exactly with this point over here. So you can actually just hover over that point and it'll draw a dashed line, and now they're exactly the same distance. Yeah, so you can sort of have everything lining up. Yeah, along that point. And Command Z just undoes all that stuff as well. Command or Control Z, depending on whether you're in Mac or Windows. Another thing that I want to show you is up in Window, Instructor. So this is really helpful because it sort of tells you how to use all the tools that you are currently in. So see how I'm in the push-pull tool, so it comes up, tells me how to use it, gives me a little animation, and also gives me some modifier keys. So for example, Control toggles creating new starting face. So if I'm pushing and pulling, I press Control. Wait, I'll push and pull it out. So see if I just push and pull, it's just stretching that face. But if I press Control, it makes a new face. So now I can actually make little segments along that box, and now I can extrude those bits out as well. So again, this is a sort of really simple, powerful way to start making some shapes really quickly. If you want a roof like that thick, and then you can go up and make it sort of like that. So yeah, really powerful way to quickly get things happening. And then if I press space, I'm in Select Tool, so the Instructor changes to the Select Tool. So yeah, so right now it's in a default kind of template view. You can change the way Sketchup looks really easily. Up in View, you can go View Edge Style, so I can take all the profiles off, or change it from shaded to wireframe to headline to, so you can change that stuff. But what about if I want to change the colors, or take this sort of fake sky thing away, or something like that? Take these endpoints off, these little blobby endpoints. So you can go up to Window and then Styles, and if you go Edit, you can turn all this stuff off. So you can turn all the edges off. I could do that before, but now I can turn the endpoints off. Yeah, or I can change their size. I can make that 20, I think. So now there's like super massive endpoints. What's the maximum I can go? 99. Huge. So that looks kind of quite weird, right? That actually might look kind of interesting. Profiles on and off. And you can also change the sky, like take the sky off, change the background color, maybe make it like black. Here we go, now we're talking. If you have a black background, it'll change the edges to white, so you can see them. And then I think simultaneously, if you change the edges to black, it'll change the background to white again. Yeah, like that. So they sort of change each other. Cool. So that's how you can sort of change the color of things. And you can also change the faces and things like that. So maybe make it like grey, and then the edges I'll make have a little bit of color. Yeah, so you can sort of get some interesting, kind of quite cool looking styles, like this, where it's just a profile. So you can see all the edges of that box, but not the lines inside it. So, sometimes it's a bit weird, like things like this start happening, but it can be quite cool, I think. Cool, so that's how you change the styles. So what about if you want to copy something? So another tool I didn't show you was the Move tool. So press M for Move, and then the Instructor shows you how to move stuff. So right now I don't have anything selected. So when I hover over something with the Move tool, it'll select it for me. So you can select something like by the corner. So I'm just moving that in and out on the red axis there. Or you can move something by a line. So see that I'm just moving that whole line now. Or you can move the face, so the whole thing. I'll show you on this box here. So I can move that in. See, now it's like a kind of trapezoid. I can move this one down. Yeah, or I can move the whole face out or in, or the line. So see how, like, I want to move this end point. I want to move it straight up, but it's not letting me. It's because it's sort of locked in. I guess because it's a square down here, so it doesn't want to break this face. So if you see in the instructor, there is, if I press Alt, it toggles auto fold. So I'm moving it right now. So if I press Alt, then it auto folds it. So what that means is that it'll make that new face. It'll split that face in half so that that point can go up. Turns everything into sort of triangles. So for example, this one I want to move out on the red axis, but it won't let me. Press Alt, turns it into triangles, so I can move it. Cool. So with the select tool, you can select a whole shape like that, from the top left to the bottom right, if I draw a rectangle like that. But what about if I just want to select those two lines like that? See how it's not sort of letting me? What you can do is you can go from the top, from the bottom right, sorry, to the top left. See how now it's a dashed line, and that's going to select whatever is touching that square. So I can just do things like that. I can just get a little bit, I can get a whole chunk like that. So it's just a different way of selecting things. So, and then if I've selected it, what I can do is I can copy it. So see how if I go to the move tool, if I press Control when I'm moving something, it toggles a copy of it. So I'm just moving that whole thing around now, but if I press Control, it makes a copy. Really quick way of making multiples of something, rather than going Control C, Control V, Control C, Control V. You know, it's a bit sort of slower. You can just tap Control. Really quick. And you can do that for complex shapes as well. So another way of selecting things, so if I press select and then just click on a line, I can select that line, or I can click on a face. So I'm just clicking once to select these things, or if I double click on the face, I can select everything that borders that face. So for example, see how it's sort of not only the face but the lines as well. Double click. Excuse me. But if I triple click, it selects everything that's touching those faces. So it sort of selects all the connected things. So that's just double clicking. But if I triple click, it selects the whole thing. And then I can move and then press Control while I'm moving that, make a copy of it. Yeah. So I can get these little objects, starting to copy them around, make a more complex kind of scene. Maybe I want to select a whole bunch of dudes. But see how now this is blue and this is blue, it's sort of selecting all of those bits as well, little sort of fragments. And see, when I'm copying it, I can sort of move it on the red axis. I know it's moving it directly sideways, or on the green axis like that, or on the blue axis. I know it's moving it straight up and down. If I go select and then see, it's not blue over there. It's sort of moving it over way over to that point over there. But if I move it on the blue axis, I know it's moving straight up and down. Cool. So that's all good, but like I sort of want these objects here to all be the same. So what I mean by that is maybe I want them to be sort of spaceships, you know. So I want to have like little windows or something in them, and then you know, like little guns and things on them. But I want them to all be the same model of spaceship. Same sort of company made them, for example. So what you can do is you can select everything, select that sort of spaceship object, and you can right click and you can go make component. So what a component is, I'll just name it spaceship 1. What a component is, cool, is it's a sort of group or separate kind of box of geometry. So see how I can sort of select on all this stuff. I can select it individually, I can select the face or the line or whatever. But this, whenever I click on it, it selects the whole thing. So I can select individual bits or just the whole thing. So what that means is it's sort of separate from everything else, and I can copy it. So see how now there's two. So if I double click on it, now I can edit it. I can sort of go inside it, sort of change it. But see how this one here is selecting as well? So if I make it a bit longer, the other one updates. So what that means is is that it's just one piece of geometry that's in other places at the same time. So because it's a digital environment we're working in, what that means is that we can reference the same stuff from memory, but it's just in another place. It's in another place, or you can also rotate them differently. So if I press move, these little red dots come up. So they can be in a different rotation, or they can also be at a different scale. If I press the scale button up here, or press S for scale. So maybe these ones are like little tiny versions. Yeah, so they can be the same, like a different place, a different rotation, or a different scale. But it's still referencing the same geometry inside that component. So you can start to see some interesting things happening when they're at different rotations and different scales as well. So what's the point of that? Why would you ever want that? Well, for example, maybe I've got a house that I'm building, and I've got some windows in it. Yeah, so I can make these sort of windows. So yeah, I've got a wee window there. I can do another one, but actually no, I want them to all have window frames. So how's that going to work? Well, what you have to do is you'd make this a component, and you go window, yeah, and then you copy that around. Maybe it's a different scale, and then what you can do is you can have a window frame like that. You see what's happening there? It's sort of it updated this one as well, so now I can have multiple windows around. Wow, it's working really great. Yeah, all at different sizes, maybe this real tiny one. And now it's like, oh wait, I don't just want a window like that, I want it to actually be 3D, so it actually has a frame, so it's sort of out like that. And now that they've all updated, yeah, I don't have to go around each window one by one, manually updating it. So that's why they're really helpful. So for anything that you're going to repeat, that's the same geometry, like a chair, or a window, or a door, or a spaceship, or a planets, or, you know, there's lots of things that you're going to repeat in your designs. So you want to make them components so that whenever you want to make a change to it, it updates across the whole model. So yeah, that's about the basics of SketchUp 2014 Make. There are some tricks. I was gonna show you guys some little tricks. One of them is look at all the stuff up in the menu bar. Like literally, like open it up and go into each subfolder thing, submenu, and see what is there. Because there's like the 3D warehouse, we can like download models. You can export a 3D model or a 2D graphic. Like what does that mean? You know, like actually see what it means and like see all the different formats and things. And there's options for them as well. And what else? There's edit. You know, there's paste in place. Like what is that about? You know, it means you can sort of copy things from one file, paste it into another in the right place. There's heaps of different things on the toolbar. You can show section planes, blah blah blah. you know, there's all the stuff, camera, parallel projection, so now there's no perspective, it's just like an isometric. Super cool if you want to do like diagrams and things, or you know, sections, plans, elevations, things like that. Perspective, there's standard views, so you can go top. What about position camera, walk? You know, you can walk around. So I'm sort of, whoa, that's quite cool, spinning around. Yes, you can actually like walk around and then press middle click to look around. Camera position. So if I click on that face, it'll take me to what a person looks like. I think it's like 1800 above the floor, I think. 1600, sorry. So I can sort of look around like what it would look like, you know, from that perspective. Because this model is like huge now that I've made, you know. So if I measure something, measure this. See how down here it says the length, right down the bottom right corner. So that's that's 10 meters right there. So if I draw a line from there to there, that's, what's that, 100 meters? Yeah, 100 meters. So it's quite a big model I've made. What's another tool? The section plane. If I go tools, you know, just follow me, offset. What is offset? It does those windows things like I was doing before, but you can not only offset inwards, you can go outwards as well. Yeah, so you can sort of make different sized, you know, things like that. We can go backwards. You know, you can do a lot of interesting sort of weird stuff without too much sort of effort, in a way. You know, like that's quite cool, right? And I was just doing some offsets. Another tool I want to show you, section plane. So what this does, tells you up here in the Instructor, creates section cuts using effects enabling you to view geometry within a model. So plane, section, elevation, this is what you want to use. So see how it's sort of snapping to that face? Whatever I'm hovering over, it's going to line up with that face. So what I want to do is do a section that's completely vertical. So I'll find a completely vertical face like this one. Click on there, draw the section at that point, and it's put me back into the last tool I was using. So I'll press space to select. Now select the section plane, so you can just click on those arrows, or the actual plane, and then press M, and I can move it in and out. So you sort of see what it's doing here. It's sort of deleting or hiding everything behind the section plane. So I can sort of go like that, go, yep, I want a view like that, so now I can get this section view of what's inside here. You can sort of see what's going on really easily. You can also right click on everything, so if I right click on the section plane, I can go reverse, and I can go align view. Yes, it sort of lined me up with it. I can press delete it. So anything I can right click on. Oh, zoom selection, that's a good one. Reload. Oh, so I can load a different model in instead of that component. I can load a different one. Can I get open? Whoa, that's quite cool. So I guess it loaded up the same file instead of that component. Yeah, cool. That's quite interesting. And yeah, components work like Russian nesting dolls, kind of. So up here in Window Outliner, what do I mean by Russian nesting dolls? I mean you can have groups, within components, within groups, and you can sort of go further and further down the rabbit hole. So, for example, I can copy all of this, go inside that component and paste it in there. Oh, it's just not the same one. Okay, right, I see. So if I copy that and then go make unique, and then go into it, yeah, now we're talking. And then we go make unique. Yeah, so you can sort of see in the outliner here, I've got the file, and then components at the top level, and then a component within that, and then within that, and then within that. It's sort of selecting all this other stuff because there's multiple of those components in the scene. Another trick I wanted to show you was I'll just draw. I'll just copy this stuff here. So I'll copy this over here. So what if I want not only one of those, but what if I want 100 of them going down that way? So first of all, I'll make it a component. Now I can press the move tool. So I'll run through the whole thing, the whole sort of tricksy exercise right now. So I've got nothing selected, so I'll press the select tool. I'll select what I want to copy, then go into the move tool, and now I want to move it over this way, but I want to make a copy of it, so I'll press Control, and then I want it about that far apart, so I'll click once to set it there, and then I'll press X, and then I'll press a number, 22, and then I'll press Enter. So you can sort of see that the number comes up here as well, like down in the bottom right, little status bar display thing. So that just made 22 copies of it. So you can do that with any selection. So now I'm selecting the whole lot again. I'll copy them this way, times 22. Now I've got this big sort of matrix of them, and now I want to copy them up as well. So I'll copy them up. Oh, getting a wee bit laggy now. So I'll click there, times 22, enter. Another cool tool is the hand tool up here, where you press H, you can sort of pan around. So look at that. So with sort of no time at all, now I've got this big sort of matrix of objects. And the trippy thing is that they're all components, so if I edit one, and it's getting a bit laggy now, but if I edit one, they're all going to update. So what happens if I move them way over there? Cool. So they all updated that same geometry. I might get rid of some of them, so it's a bit sort of easier to move around. And if I if I edit one again, pull this face up. See, they're all still updating. They're all the same geometry, just in different places. So that's pretty cool. So what you can do, that copy thing, so that was select an object, M for move, Control to make a copy of it, and then click once, X, 10, and then enter. It makes 10 copies of them. So you can do that with the rotate tool as well. So while I'm rotating, I can press Control, make a copy of them, click once, times 12, enter. It's made a rotated copy of them. Pretty cool. I don't want that big spike anymore, so I'll select it and I'll delete it. I think they'll have an endpoint on them too. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So now we've got this rotated copy, and we can rotate and copy it on a different axis as well. Like that, times 12, enter. It's made this kind of sphere kind of looking thing. And I might push one of the faces out. So you can do some really interesting, sort of really abstract sort of stuff with that rotate and copy, move and copy. Yeah, so I highly recommend you guys look at all the stuff up here, because I mean there's heaps of stuff like fog. Turn fog on, you can sort of have it sort of hiding, you know. It's pretty cool. So that when you sort of zoom in, all the stuff in the background gets sort of hidden. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Get some sort of interesting views. There's also shadows and yeah, various things like that. So anyway, that's a sort of brief overview. that should sort of last for a wee while until they release a new version. Cool. See ya.